Last week, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed a bill to screw over poor people, specifically renters. So now the bill, HB 133, allows landlords in Florida to charge tenants a non-refundable, limitless, recurring fee instead of a security deposit, or what's been dubbed junk fees. So lovely, empowering landlords to be even more terrible. Great. So now look, the security deposit, which is required by most places to move into an apartment, is basically a lump sum of cash that these landlords are supposed to hold on to in order to cover any sorts of major repairs of the apartment outside of wear and tear. And if there is no major repairs or major damage to the apartment, then you are supposed to get that back. So I get it in theory that it's there to, protect property owners from somebody coming in, maliciously breaking things on their way out before they leave. Most people, the vast majority of people, do not do that. Most people don't trash their apartments. And so most renters, when they leave an apartment, are supposed to get that security deposit back, generally. Now, of course, there are terrible landlords that will go in and, attempt to try to hold on to that security deposit anyway, because they're terrible people. But, I'm not going to say that all of them do that. I've had some, I've rented in my life and, I received my security deposit back before, and many people have. But here's the thing. Nowadays, prospective renters are facing a lot more difficulty in being able to save up enough money to be able to get the first month's rent, the last month's rent, and the security deposit that can be upwards to 1 month or even 2 months amount of rent. And so you're talking a lot of money, a giant lump sum of cash, just be able to move in to an apartment. So that's very difficult for a lot of people. So Republicans decided to take this very real problem and then use it to screw over poor people even more. So Republicans, backed by corporate lobbyists, helped to introduce this bill, which they touted to help the poor. Oh, no, we're going to help it by making a security deposit more affordable. So that instead of having to pay this gigantic lump sum in a security deposit, we'll make it an option for renters to pay a fee. A fee. Oh, okay, well. Now, instead of paying the security deposit, the bill allows landlords to begin charging this fee on top of the average normal rent. So now there's a way that it actually could help, people in this environment. If it were structured so that you would, have a fixed amount of a security deposit, but you instead pay a little bit towards it monthly. Then, in installments, for example, until that fixed amount is paid for. And then, those additional payments on top of your rent would then end. And then assuming that there is no large amount of damage to the apartment, then, and it was returned when they moved out, then there wouldn't be an issue. This would actually be helpful. Great. But no, that's not what this bill does. Under this bill, there's no cap on this security deposit alternative, which means they can keep taking and taking and taking and taking and taking, and then are not required to give it back at all. Just at all. A landlord could instead charge $25 a month on top of rent or $200 on top of rent. Really, the sky's the limit for them. Okay? And again, they could collect all this money and then just never give it back when you leave. That's it. Jay Mobley, an attorney for the Orange County Legal Aid Society, who encounters many low-income renters, told Orlando Weekly that the bill, quote, opens the door for a lot of abuse on the part of bad landlords. True. Mobley says there's no cap on the fees. As written, this legislation leaves working class renters that are experiencing an affordable housing crisis vulnerable to predatory business practices. Oh, I'm sorry. This is according to a letter urging DeSantis to veto the bill last month, sent by a coalition of advocacy groups. But you can see, of course, Ron DeSantis ignored it completely because, he doesn't care. They also mentioned that the state is facing a housing crisis and our communities are being exploited for profit. Well, yeah, welcome to capitalism. Welcome specifically to Ron DeSantis land, Republican corporate governance. Now, it's not going to surprise you. Who backed this? As I mentioned, landlords, lobbying groups. The Republican-sponsored bill was backed by property tech companies like Rhino and LeaseLock. LeaseLock, a company that offers so-called security deposit alternatives to landlords and tenants, has lobbied for similar laws on a local and state level elsewhere. And unsurprisingly, this company got in trouble for violating state consumer protection law in Maryland. Maryland state attorney reached a settlement with the California-based company, which is blocked from offering such alternatives to landlords now in that state, saying, quote, LeaseLock's program effectively had tenants paying their security deposits monthly, but at the end of the lease, tenants got nothing back. Maryland State Attorney General Frosch said in a statement, at the time, under the settlement, tenants will get their money back from LeaseLock unless the funds were lawfully withheld for past due rent or damage to the property. However, Florida's HB 133 doesn't require landlords to offer the security deposit alternative. Republicans like Jim Mooney say, well, it's a choice, not a mandate. And how's that supposed to be better? Besides, as State Representative Anna Escamani of Orlando told the Orlando Sentinel back in April, for people who can't afford a security deposit, it's not really much of a choice. So yeah, you either can't afford to, pay this ridiculous amount, which again, landlords can put at any level, at any amount they want, in order to maybe even encourage people to do this. I mean, I could see landlords now going from, $500 security deposit. Well, let's make it $5,000. And somebody is like, I can't afford that. Oh, don't worry. We've got an alternative for you. Just pay us in perpetuity as long as you live there. And then honestly, if that happens, they're going to make more and more money and never have to return it. So that's exactly what could and probably will happen now that this bill has been signed into law by Ron DeSantis. In fact, here's what Escamani said, quote, a never-ending fee compared to paying $2,000 up front is for many people potentially cheaper. But if I don't have $2,000 and the legislature has offered no caps on security deposits, which there should be, then of course, I'm going to choose your perpetual fee. It's not designed to protect the tenant at all. Going back to Mobley, who said a security deposit covers the tenant's liability for damage. This fee does not, unless the property owner decides to purchase an insurance policy, which benefits only him, only the landlord, and not the tenant. You have someone who's paid for an insurance policy product through a landlord for maybe a couple of years, and at the end of it, it doesn't benefit the tenant at all because they're still responsible for some of the damages. And unsurprisingly, the lobbyists love this bill. Republicans love this bill. But wait, Democrats also love this bill. Orlando area Senator Linda Stewart and Senator Jason Pizzo, a South Florida Democrat whose family happens to own property management company in New Jersey, voted in favor of the bill. To show you how terrible the Florida Democratic Party is, Pizzo has been tapped to become the next Florida Senate Democratic leader following the 2024 elections. So, and of course, they also famously brought us Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Lovely. Florida Democrats, for the most part, terrible. For one, they can barely win any elections. And they join with the Republicans often to screw the poor. Again, not all of them. But I would say that this is one of the worst Democratic parties in the country, and that really does say something. I mean, the last Florida Democrat to lose to Ron DeSantis was Charlie Crist, and he was a former Republican, one of the worst. That's where they're at. And look, that's part of the reason Florida is such a hellhole. Republicans are destroying the state. They're chasing out immigrants, LGBTQIA plus people. They're crushing the poor, and Democrats will sit there and watch because either they're powerless, or in some cases they can't wait to go and help Republicans crush other people, especially poor people. One of the few people that are progressive in Florida is Representative Maxwell Frost. Now, Maxwell Frost is, again, only one person. He's based as heck. A great guy, but he's only one guy. Now, he is correctly going out there and calling DeSantis what he is, a fascist. But where's the rest of the party? Where's the rest of the Democratic Party in supporting and joining Maxwell Frost? Whether it be the state party or, other Florida representatives. Not there. They're just not there. They're silent, and in many ways complicit. So that's the situation in Florida. It's a disaster.